Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December the 11th, 2018 meeting of Mayor and Council. I will call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Our first order of business is our invocation, which will be given by Council Member Shirley Marchman, followed by a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Gracious Father, we thank thee for another day. Thank thee for allowing us to be in the land of the living, be able to come together to discuss the business of the city, and we ask that what we do, that you get the honor, the praise, and the glory, that all be done for the constituents of the city, not just one individual area, but all over the city, that what we decide to do is pleasing to you. Bless this nation, bless our city, our state, bless the government, help us to make good choices, and whatever we do, that it will be to your likeness. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, our first order of business, we have some ceremonial presentations we're going to do. And first off, I would like to ask Chief Mansour and Chief Joel Richards to come forward. And they have a little presentation they're going to make.
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to be able to present this to you guys once again. I did it several years ago. In 1996, the Georgia Police Accreditation Coalition collaborated with the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police, all those alphabet organizations, and they came up with a program that's known today as a law enforcement certification program that's been endorsed by the state. It's nothing that you can bluff your way through. I've been working for a state certified agency since '99, and every 3 years the state sends a team of assessors in, and you got to do what you say you're doing, or they take this from you. It's a very coveted award. There's over 650 agencies in law enforcement in the state of Georgia, and only 129 have achieved this. And this program's been around for over 22 years. So that says a lot about this police department. In order to achieve it, they had to meet 129 standards in 8 different essential areas of law enforcement. And they did it without any flaws. And that's saying a lot. So it's an honor for me to be able to present this to you. You can't do it without the support of the entire department. Under the leadership of Chief Mansour, it was achieved. But you also have to have, I know from experience, your governing body that approves this and supports it. So thank you. Hats off to you guys for doing this. Again, it's a very coveted award across this state. You think over 650 and only 128 have been able to do this in 22 years. So also, you have to have a certification manager appointed by the chief. And in this case, it's Chris Baxter. So if you would come up. I can tell you cannot do it without this person. Chief Mansour can speak more about the role that she has to play in this. But I would like to present this to you guys on behalf of the State Certification It takes everybody in the organization to do this, I promise you. One person can screw it up.
Oh, he's got to stand in the back now.
Shorty.
You're not one in the back?
Smile to me, I'm Chris. Smile to me, and I will. Y'all see her all the time. Squeeze together like you like each other. Come on, Jeff, a little closer. It's okay, even if he is from Carrollton.
Come on.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief.
This is the plaque for the certification manager, and I want to kind of stress what Chief Richards said. This is not an easy task, and we've had people in this position before that you know, really struggled with it and had a tough time, but Chris has just shined and just done an awesome job for us. Now, she'll come to me sometime and she'll say, I need this today. Yes, ma'am, and we get it done. But she's just done an awesome job for us, so I want to recognize her by giving her this plaque. It says Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police Certificate of Appreciation to Chris Baxter, as an expression of gratitude for your dedication and efforts to the state of Georgia Law Enforcement Certification Program as a certification manager, and it's signed by the president of the Georgia Chiefs Association. So congratulations.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Why not? Get it, Chris?
It's good to see Chief Richards up in our neck of the woods, and I just want to say, just echo his thoughts. And you know, as mayor, we have to deal with a lot of things, some good, some not so good every day, but one of the things that has been a very pleasant, not surprise, because I've worked with the chief for many years when I was here as an employee, but we're blessed as a city to have our police department and our chief leading our police department. So give these guys a hand. Okay. Second thing, we also have Chief Mansour, come on back up. Come on down.
Mr. Mayor and Council, basically this is just real short and sweet, but I wanted to recognize in front of the Mayor and Council, in front of the citizens, three of our recent promotions that we've had in our department. One of the things that I brought with us when I came to Villarica was a promotional ceremony. And we do a promotional ceremony anytime somebody's promoted in our department. And I got that from the military. I went to one where my brother was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel in the Air Force, and they made a really big deal about it, made it real cool. They had the family there to, pin on the new clusters or whatever, and I just thought that was a cool thing to do. And so we started doing that, because when I policed before, you'd walk in, the chief say, hey, congratulations, you're sergeant, get back to work, and you go back out to work. Well, now we actually do it where we have the families come, we have friends and stuff, we do a little celebration for them. And so the recent promotions that we had, first of all was Hunter Etheridge, lieutenant. He was promoted from sergeant to lieutenant. Hunter's been with us over 10 years and just does an awesome job for our department. We appreciate what he does. Michelle Moore was promoted from corporal to sergeant. Michelle was SRO, school resource officer at the high school, and just runs hard for the high school kids. She also helps with the Explorers, does an awesome job. So she was promoted to sergeant recently. And then the latest promotion was Sergeant Jacob Brown. Jacob will be taking over the traffic unit that Hunter vacated. He was recently promoted to sergeant. He's been a corporal for several years. Jacob just does an awesome job for us and really helps our department. We appreciate all of them. As Chief Richard said, it takes all of us to do what we do and to be successful. And I just appreciate all the folks that work with us and the hard work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, our next one is recognition of Stephanie Rooks, our Human Resource Manager, and I think our City Manager is going to do this one.
Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to recognize Stephanie for one of her accomplishments recently. She has completed a 48-hour program with one of the state educational arms of a professional association. In this case, as an HR manager, this is one of the Georgia personnel associations, and she has received an advanced certification in HR management. So we'd like Stephanie, wherever she's hiding, to come up so that we can get a photo for you.
UGA. You get to hold it. and I'm just going to stay down here. It's good having this little traveling mic with me. Y'all don't have to speak so loud. We've got some commission members that we're going to administer the oath of office tonight. First, I would like to ask Ken Norton and Alan White to please come forward. They are new members on our Historic Preservation Commission. And I would ask that you both just come around on up here and raise your right hand. And I'm going to read the oath, and if y'all would just say "I do" at the end, then y'all will be sworn in. Really easy, okay? I, and you do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Historic Preservation Commission. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office or trust under the government of the United States or any state or any foreign state which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica to the best of my ability without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof. I do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if I can get y'all to sign these. And we'll get a photo made. We'll get y'all's photo. Let's scoot right in the middle. I think I'm getting shorter, everybody else is getting taller around me. Okay, our next one is reappointments of oath of office for our Historic Preservation Commission. And I would like to ask Larry Coors to come forward. His term will be 1 year. What we've done is staggered those so we don't have everybody leaving at one time. Renee Hooks. Is Renee here? I'm seeing Renee. And Dr. Nancy Mims. Dr. Mims, her term will be 3 years. So we'll do the same thing with y'all. If y'all would just raise your right hand and then state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Historic Preservation Commission. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica to the best of my ability without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof. Congratulations. Congratulations. Y'all will come. Y'all will sign those. Photo time. I'll just get in the middle, it's okay? Thank you all. Okay, next on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. You all have had a chance to look at it. I would entertain a motion to either amend or approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in,
I'd like to add to that agenda to have an executive session for personnel matters for about 5-10 minutes. I said I would like to get amendment to the agenda to go into executive session for personnel matters, if that's okay.
okay,
Can
we
I
have a
do that?
motion to go in executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous.
Now we've added that, we're going to.
Otherwise, we'll adopt the agenda as.
Yeah, otherwise, so the motion, David, do we need a separate motion?
Yeah, I think Councilman McPherson just needs to restate her motion to approve the agenda with the amendment that's previously been approved.
So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment as approved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we have reached the public comments portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to give public comments, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Wesley Whitener, 635 South Street, Villa Rica. I stood here about 3 months ago, asking about one certain person being closed down because of a death hazard to this city. To yet Mrs. Edwards is not shut down, and I'm highly concerned about our citizens' safety. This lady does not care about you, does not care about this town, does not care about her own safety. I just don't want to see the city have a repeat on 1957. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Larry Kors, 115 Maple Valley Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia. Way down on your list tonight, after we're probably most of us asleep, you're going to be asked to approve some splash funds for some trailers for Public Works. In reviewing the request by the manager, he is not picking the least expensive trailers on the list. Now, the criteria for all the trailers are basically have all been worked out to be the same, 20 feet long with the additions for all the carrying equipment, the ramping, etc. However, the costing between the three bids runs about $600. And one of the middle bid, which is the one that's being selected, which is Putting Around, the vendor called Putting Around, is the one that's been chosen. He is not the lowest vendor in the bid submission. And I asked that you please review this before we make a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comments portion of the meeting. Move on to council updates.
Other than we're not having a drought.
We're definitely not having a drought.
Remember several years ago, we were so concerned about that? No problem this year.
Okay. Tab A, governing body. Council members, you have the minutes from the November 27, 2018 meeting. Hopefully you've had a time to review those. If you have, I would either entertain a motion to approve or amend.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 27, 2018.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Tab B, Community Development. Bobby? Item number 1. Denise, sorry.
Good evening, Lanice Lyons, Planning and Zoning Specialist for the City of Villa Rica. The first case we're bringing tonight is CU-028-18, 15001 Veterans Memorial Highway in Florence Circle. Joseph Ludeman of Carrollton, Georgia, requested conditional use permit for said property, parcel number 0145-025-0004 and 0145-025-0007, in land lot 145 of the 25th District in Douglas County, for the purpose of temporary storage of vehicles. The properties consist of 1.09 plus or minus acres and are located in Ward 1. As a background, as I said, the applicant is looking to use the properties for temporary storage of vehicles as the operator of an automobile repossession business. This item came before you on November 27th, 2018, and was deferred by council. Since the deferral, well, the staff is recommending approval with conditions, and the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended the same with the conditions that are listed on the summary page. Since that time, should I be quiet now, or is the train killing my vibe?
That's a good train. Those are the moving trains. The ones I don't like are the stopped ones.
Okay. As I said, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved it with the staff recommendations on November 6th. Since the November 27th meeting, we have met with city staff and some council members regarding the conditions that staff and Planning and Zoning has recommended. In addition to the packet that you received on Civic Clerk, there's an additional addendum to the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommendations as presented per the request of Mayor Pro Tem Gil McDougal. So with that, the recommendations have been increased to add only repossessed cars may be stored on the property. No wrecked or inoperable vehicles are allowed on the property. Inoperable vehicles are defined as a vehicle shall mean a motor vehicle that lacks a current registration or registered vehicle that lacks 2 or more wheels or any other component parts, the absence of which renders the vehicle illegal for use on the highway. 3 repossessed vehicles may only remain on the property for a maximum of 30 days. The owner-operator must submit a monthly report to the Community Development Department regarding the number of vehicles and tenure of each vehicle on the property. Number 5, an 8-foot opaque solid metal fence to be installed around entire property. 6, no tractor trailers are allowed on the property except for the loading and unloading of vehicles. 7, owner-operator to mitigate any stormwater issues that result from any land disturbance, grading, or development activities. Number 8, conditional use permit to be renewed every 5 years. Number 9, the consequence of a substantial violation shall be revocation of the conditional use permit by the city council. The applicant will be allowed 30 days to resolve the violation prior to the city initiating revocation procedures. Grounds for revocation include the following: A, non-compliance with any special conditions imposed by the code or by the council at the time of approval. B, violation of any provisions of the code pertaining to the use of the land, construction or uses of buildings or structures or activities conducted on the premises. And C, violation of any other applicable code provisions or any state or federal law or regulation. The applicant is here to speak on his behalf, but those were the conditions that were added as an addendum to the packet of material that you received originally with this application.
And this was tabled from the last meeting, so any council questions of staff?
I don't have any.
I didn't do this the last time, but would anyone from the Planning and Zoning Commission want to make any comments on this before we talk to the applicant? Okay. Then I would ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name's Joseph Ludeman, 381 Kenny Lake Road, Carrollton, Georgia. I appreciate y'all service, first of all. I couldn't do y'all's job. There was an email sent out that I was asked to review. Basically, here's my rebuttal answers. I don't think they're warrant speaking of tonight. In there, it says that there was a, that's not it, I'm sorry. In there, it says that there was a lawsuit from Carroll County, which is inaccurate. There was no lawsuit. Don't know where that information came from, but it's totally false. Janet Hyde, Carroll County, y'all are more welcome to call her and ask her. As far
You have
as
copies
the,
of this for everybody? Is that what you're handing
there's
out?
4.
Just a few copies.
Four, y'all are welcome to do whatever y'all want with them.
I was just wondering because you keep passing them around. I wanted to make sure we're
There's
waiting
4,
on more.
however y'all
Okay.
want to split that up.
Thank you.
All right, as far as the conditional use permit, as soon as you take wrecked and salvaged vehicles out of it, I no longer fall in what I'm asking for. Simple. I go to the county, or city in y'all's case, say, hey, I want to open a repossession company up in your city. They have to allot me in a certain category. Closest category is highlighted. What's the first thing it says? Wreckage, service, temporary storage of wrecked and inoperable vehicles. I would love to have an explanation how you take that completely out of that category. All right, second thing is after you do that, you fall into a certain use that you have. There are already ordinances for those uses. The ordinance for this use says an 8-foot opaque fence. That's exactly what it says. Conditional use permit on this piece of property right here. Everybody knows it, Liberty Wrecker Service. Says 8-foot conditional use permit. Opaque fence. Opaque meaning 100% non-seeable from the public. There's 4 of those too. I take that back. There's only 2 of those. All right. The previous email was from the neighboring property, which was offering to sell me the property for my purposes, and said I would never need another permit, that they was already approved. That property was $110,000 higher than the property that I'm looking at to buy. Her motivation is money motivated. And when she was in the industry, she said she did whatever the clients asked because that's what was asked of her. That's not what the way you should. You should do what's morally correct. That's the way I live my life, morally correct. If it's a hazard to have a semi sitting on a busy intersection, you don't do it. If it's a nuisance to come in and out of Florence Circle because that's what's convenient for you, but it's a nuisance to your neighbors, you don't do it. I have statements from the neighbors that grew up there, said that they was entering and out exiting Florence Circle the whole time they was in operation. Currently, they have a scrap yard there. Y'all are more welcome to look at those pictures. They have containers for scrap material. They have an industrial equipment for crushing scrap material. No conditional use permit. Not According to that first one, if you'll look back, there's a highlighted section on the second page. The scrap yard needs a permit for that. There is no permit for that. Also, she stated in her email that she had to have a 10-foot buffer on the back road. In the picture, there's clearly no 10-foot buffer, but maybe a foot buffer. All right, so basically I'm saying all that. I don't want y'all's job. I could not do your job. You have ordinances in place for code enforcement to go out and enforce those ordinances. When you start unleveling the playing field by making stipulations for certain people, not for other people that are storing semis, that are doing whatever they feel like to do with their property, that's not a level playing field. I go in there as a repossession company, that's all I want to do, is a repossession company. You say, hey, you fit into a wrecked and salvage and inoperable vehicles. That's the category you fit in. First thing you said, no wrecked, inoperable, or unregistered vehicles. How do I fit in that category anymore? So, with all that being said, you either pass it with the first conditional use as 8-foot fence, or you don't pass it at all.
Could you wait just a minute? There may be some questions for you.
I wanted to ask you a question, Mr. Rubin. The document that you gave us that has 24 points on it, just so that we all understand, this is simply a rebuttal of the comments that came in from your next door neighbor who was opposed to it. Is that what that is?
That was an email that was sent out to, I believe, all your council members here.
Right.
And I was asked to rebuke it. I don't think it warrants a rebuke, but I was asked to rebuke it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that all of this is simply in response to
Yeah.
to her letter, or her email.
I mean, we could go through that if you would love to.
I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, I'm a little bit fired up. I don't know if y'all can tell, but
Let me ask you a question about the fence. In the last meeting, you passed around a picture of some fencing. All of those appeared to be metal to me.
correct.
So the idea of the metal fence came from you, actually. This was just a matter of what you
not-
presented to council becoming part of the conditional use. So is your objection to the metal fence?
There was no stipulation in there about a metal fence. It says opaque still. That's the original condition. I have no problem with the opaque 8-foot fence. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'll do metal, because I'm past that. I'll do exactly what that conditional use permit in the ordinance says it I will do. Either an 8-foot berm or an 8-foot opaque fence. It's exactly what it says, and if you don't like that, that's great. But you need to go back and address your ordinance.
The ordinance doesn't require it to be metal.
No, it does not. It requires.
But when you come before the council and ask for a conditional use, by its very nature, you're asking the council to approve a condition that we normally wouldn't, but with some conditions. And we rely on what you tell us in these meetings, so when you pass around the picture, we're assuming that's what you intended to do. If you didn't intend to do that, that wouldn't have even showed up in there.
But you and I spoke, I intended to do that.
Right, and so, but why would you have an objection to that right now?
Because you added 8 other things onto there.
Well, I'm just asking about the fence right now.
The fence, I have no problem making a beautiful fence.
But because I
don't
can
like
go,
wood privacy fence myself.
you don't like what?
Wood privacy
Okay.
fences, they're a nuisance. You always have to maintain them. They never look right. I don't, that's not my look, so.
David, can we get some clarification on, I know the repoed vehicles are not wrecked vehicles, but how does that fit with, that's where that business has to fit in the category that includes
Can I
those?
see that?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. That if the staff has looked at it and this is the appropriate category for it to be placed in, then it is.
So Lanice, that would be, that's accurate, or whatever, just trying to make sure that we're not contradicting ourselves here.
What's the question?
The question is, Mr. Ludeman has represented to us that he was told that he had to be placed into the
Right.
category of wreckage services, temporary storage of wrecked and inoperable vehicles.
So when he came to submit application, we reviewed his use. And by the zoning matrix we have to find the most closest and suitable category for him to fit in. That was the closest one that fits what he's described as his business, which is the repossession and storage of vehicles. So we don't have something that says as a conditional use, you can, storage of vehicles are allowed in this zoning district by conditional use or permitted or anything. The closest one that we could fit it into was the temporary, well, the one that he has highlighted. So that's the one that we pointed out to him as staff, and that's the one we've been basing our recommendations and staff analysis on since we received his application.
So
Okay.
he was okay with, were you okay with what she was presenting to you?
Well, from the first day, I told her I didn't fit in that category. But I understand her, I mean, let me tell you, she's been awesome this whole process. I understand because this isn't my first time of trying to get this. I also did the same thing with Carroll County. I understand that you have to fit somewhere. I get that. And if that's the closest place I fit, then don't tell me I can't do that.
Well, I think probably from the city's standpoint, it's just so that they know what they're voting on. And
Exactly that.
let me finish my question. The representation has been from you that there would not be any wrecked or inoperable vehicles on the property. If that's changing so that you're now saying that you want to be able to have wrecked and inoperable vehicles on the property, they at least need to know that prior to their vote, they're being asked to vote yes or no. So, and your representation at the last meeting was that it was not your intent to have any wrecked or inoperable vehicles on the property. Has that changed in the last month?
It has not changed, but my representation was typically, I do not. Now, I am asked sometimes to go get a car that don't have any wheels on it because somebody had renter rims on them and, hey, they needed their rims to go back to the rent center. You know, so we have to go do that. And that's one of the stipulations clearly right there. And then the other stipulation, I mean, I do impounds. I go to, as a repossession company, we go to impound to say we go to Huey's, say we go to Liberty Record. We pick up a wrecked car that is going to go to auction, and it is still a repo. I don't have control over if they're wrecked or not. I'm not gonna sit here and agree to stipulations that I don't have control over.
How often would you say that happens? I mean, is that something that routinely happens or occasionally happens?
Well, my standpoint right now is you agree on wrecked or salvaged vehicles as the conditional use says, that I highlighted on the first page that I fit into, or you deny it. I mean, it's simple. I've not invested too much into this.
I think it was understood by some of us that there weren't going to be wrecked vehicles. I'm not saying I have an issue with that or not. And let me just say this, as far as some frustration, that sort of thing, I get that because sometimes you want to start a business and you feel like government puts you through the ringer to do it. And I don't want that to happen, but at the same time, you know, we've approved some things right with certain expectations in Villa Rica, and that's not what happened at all. So we just want to make sure, now, having your explanation, we have to consider that there could be wrecked vehicles or a vehicle where they took the renter rims back and it might not have wheels and that sort of thing, and make a decision on if that's an issue. For me, if it's blocked with an opaque fence, I don't really care. That's for me. I don't really care a whole lot about that as long as there's nothing that's hurting the environment. And if the neighbors behind aren't having to look at it. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me. But because I thought you weren't going to have wrecked, I didn't have a problem with that stipulation being put in there because I thought that was our understanding from you. It's a little different than that. Okay.
Can I say something to that?
Sure.
You have code enforcement, and when you start changing codes and they have to go back to the office and look up a conditional use permit and see what it exactly said, if it was allowed or wasn't allowed. If it didn't cross the board, it's hard for them to enforce that. So, and they're very limited to how many they have and what they can do. I mean, so don't over-regulate something if you can't control the regulations you have.
I understand what you're saying, and I do understand your frustration, but to what you just said, you know, the city has obviously made mistakes in the past, but that doesn't mean we should continue to make them in the future. And I think what the council, what I hear them saying is that we're trying to put conditions on things, and we may be shorthanded, but that man sitting right over there is responsible for that department. And if this council votes to put conditions on any property or any zoning that comes before them, then I think that it becomes staff's priority then to enforce those. So you know, I get this question asked of me all the time, well, it happened in the past. You know, we're not really dealing with the past, we're dealing with now and in the future. So I just wanted to make that point, but I do understand your frustration.
Yeah, well, now it says I'm fitting under wrecked and salvaged vehicles, and that's what I'm in front of you asking for.
Problem with that is that now that this use has changed dramatically, and P&Z hasn't had a chance to look at it from that standpoint. David?
I'm not asking you to table it, I'm asking you to vote yes or no.
Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir. Okay, at this point we'll open up the meeting for public comment. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak for or against this, please do so. State your name and address for the record and limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Larry Kors, 115 Maple Valley Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia. I ask you to consider this. You're trying to avoid the Edge Road mistake, which is the junkyard, who the man runs a repair service / junkyard / repossession / God knows what else. Without the opaque fence, which the statute calls for, that was waived by you. Not all of you, but it was waived by the organization. We have repeatedly said we don't want that again, which I think is where you're actually going tonight. Now, the coding and classification, you had to stick this round peg, stick them in the square hole, okay? I understand that. So give them some leeway, rewrite a little bit of the ruling about the zoning classification, and allow the zoning classification to accommodate this type of activity, or go back and create a slot for this type of activity. Understanding that, yes, he will put up a fence, and he will abide by the rest of the terms and conditions, ingress, egress, etc. I think what you're really trying to get at with this wrecked car business is you don't want a junkyard. I think your statement of nothing can stay over, and number 3, repossessed vehicles may only remain on the property for maximum 30 days, will qualify for all vehicles. You also don't have a statement up there about what he's going to actually have to give you on his report. Do you want it by VIN number? Do you want it by make and model? Do you want it by the color? Do you want it by the manufacturer and the color? What do you want? So be specific about the terms and conditions that you're asking for him to abide by. And I think if you get your terms and conditions smoothed out, everything will work just fine. And therefore, I ask you to modify your conditions slightly and pass the application.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, this will close the public comments portion of this hearing, and the action will revert back to the council. Do I hear a motion to approve the conditional use as approved, as presented by staff and amended by council?
It hasn't actually been amended by council yet. The proposed addendum, nobody has voted on that yet.
All right, I'll make a motion then, that we approve this conditional use permit with the conditions provided by planning and zoning and staff, and the conditions in the addendum.
Was that a second? Have a motion and a second? Discussion? No discussion, I'll call a question. All in favor? All opposed?
Did we just tie? I wasn't looking at how everybody else.
Okay, once again, we have reached an impasse for the second.
I was just gonna say, I don't have a problem with approval. I'm not like against approving this conditional use. I think some of our requirements might need to be adjusted.
Okay, we have a motion second. The vote was 2-2, so I'll break the tie on this. And let me say a couple of things before I vote. I did consider, obviously, that I was going to be here because since I was here the last meeting, this exact thing happened. And I thought it was working toward an amicable end, quite frankly. And as Council Member McDougal stated, the applicant came to us with a nice fence that he was going to put up down there, and that, you know, showed an indicator on his part that he was trying to do the right thing. He's also correct when he says that it only calls for an 8-foot fence, an opaque fence, and but we didn't come up with that. He came to us with that photograph. I understand his frustration completely. I really do. But at the same time, I feel like that planning and zoning didn't hear it exactly the way it was presented tonight. And I have a problem with that. And so I'm going to cast my vote to deny the,
In favor of the motion.
in favor of the motion to deny. Okay.
Was the motion to deny?
The motion, the motion was to approve with all of the conditions and the new conditions.
Right.
So you voted no?
I'm voting against that. Wait a minute. Let me think about it. Let me think about that for a minute, because it changed from last month.
Mr. Mayor, before you actually cast your final vote, based on my hearing of the discussion here, before you make this final, let me at least raise a possibility that, based on my hearing your discussion, may resolve some of the concern. The primary concern that I had heard from Mr. Ludeman was primarily related to the addendum number 2 about no wrecked or inoperable vehicles. And the point was made, well, you're saying no wrecked or inoperable vehicles may be put in a category that is specifically intended for wrecked services, temporary storage of wrecked and inoperable vehicles. A potential solution, and I'm directing this primarily to Councilman McDougal since it's his addendum, that might be a acceptable solution is if you simply removed condition number 2 in your addendum. You still have the categories there that say only repossessed cars may be stored on the property and that repossessed vehicles may only remain on the property for a maximum of 30 days.
Is it permissible for me to amend my motion at this point?
Well, I think at a 2-2 tie vote, and there is no vote cast by the mayor yet, then the motion essentially dies, and it'd be appropriate for a new motion to be made.
Would
I will
need to-
rescind my vote.
Will I need to withdraw my motion?
No, it
All right,
simply
let me
fails
amend
for
my
lack of action.
motion. I will make a motion to approve the conditional use permit with the conditions as presented to the P&Z and by staff, in addition to the conditions in the addendum, except that I would strike number 2 in the addendum.
Motion is seconded by Councilman.
Does that correspond to what you just said, David?
It is, and the purpose of it, from what I heard from Mr. Ludeman, he was concerned that if he put a wrecked vehicle, if he repossessed a vehicle that was wrecked and he put it on his property, he's automatically in violation. what this does by removing that one component, he can do that, but he can't keep it there, but
30
no more
days.
than 30 days.
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Marchman. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Passes.
We
Thank
just
you
don't
all.
want no more junkyards, that's all.
One paragraph made a lot of difference in that discussion. We have at least two attorneys here. They'll tell you that's usually the case. Item number 2.
Item 2, another conditional use permit, CU-03-18, 101 3 West Parkway, Suite E. Purpose, Rodney Johnson of Villa Rica, Georgia, requests a conditional use permit for said property, parcel number V07-0100142 in land lot 165 of the 6th District in Carroll County for the purpose of a church. Property consists of 1.07 plus or minus acres and is located in Ward 2. This application went before the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 4th and was approved. Staff is recommending approval. That was passed. Some background, this space has previously been used as a place of worship. The most recent example was conditional use permit CU-02-13, which was approved in 2013. Since the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we have met with city staff and Councilman McDougal regarding another addendum to the staff report to include some recommendations. There was some discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission that it aligns with the recommendations that are in this addendum. So the first is all parking to be provided on site, no parking to be allowed on adjoining parcels or on street. Number 2, conditional use permit shall require annual review and approval by the city council. 3, hours of operation for assembly to be limited to Saturday evenings after 5 p.m. 4, the consequence of substantial violation shall be revocation of the conditional use permit by the city council. The applicant will be allowed 30 days to resolve the violation prior to the city initiating revocation procedures. Grounds for revocation include the following: A, non-compliance with any special conditions imposed by the code or by the council at the time of approval. B, violation of any provisions of the code pertaining to the use of the land, construction or uses of buildings or structures or activities conducted on the premises. And C, violation of any other applicable code provisions or any state or federal law or regulations. There is a representative speaking on the applicant's behalf here this evening.
Okay. Any questions of staff? All right, seeing none, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
I'd ask the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm Jeanette Johnson, Pastor Johnson's wife. Our address will be 101 3 West Parkway here in Villa Rica. I'm speaking on behalf of him because he was not able to attend this evening. Our services will be on Saturday evenings at 7 p.m. Just to share a little bit about our church vision, ASAL, Community Church, ASAL stands for a song and a word, meaning it's just to, my husband wants to simplify church, just to give you a good song and preach a good word and then fellowship thereafter, all within about an hour. The vision for ASAL is about serving and giving for the community, for the needy, those who, we already have new members that came in with the heart to serve the community. And now, as they are a part of our church, they'll have our support, and so that they can go out and continue to do their good works. Actually, I have some of our first new members, Frank and Karen Reeve. They've been great. Our church believes in this concept because we have seen the benefits of serving and giving. What my husband adds to this church is his comedy. He's been a professional comedian for over 30 years, not just in the secular circuit, but he's been doing religious comedy tours all throughout the United States. Needless to say, he has a very unique way of preaching the word and, making it humorous and, so that you can connect to it. So, needless to say, regarding the conditionals, the conditions that were stated, we understand to have the services on Saturday, and that's it, and parking and the annual review, so we understand that.
And could you state I think you stated your business address, your
Yes. yes.
home address?
Home address is 9693 Spyglass Drive.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions of the applicant?
I have a question, but it relates, excuse me, to Councilman McDougal's addendum here. I'm good with the no parking on the street. I think that's not a good thing. It needs to stay on the property, and no adjoining parcels unless they had permission from a business owner that was next door. I don't know if we can put that in there. I don't think any of us would probably have a problem if there were another business owner that allowed you to use their parking lot. Hours of operation, it says for assembly to be limited to Saturday evening after 5 p.m. My question is this, I didn't know if that was that going to cause a problem or be too restrictive? Are we assuming that this church never has any other special events, any other time that you would need to meet? So I was wondering if that restriction was going to conflict with what you plan to do.
At this time, no, and I think that restriction came about because of the Martins and with traffic flow and that, at any other time during the day, if we had an early morning service, that might cause a conflict with the traffic, and I think they were just trying to minimize that, if I'm correct. So, yes, no, right now, we just have 7 p.m. Services on Saturday.
Okay, so you don't see that being a problem for you?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. Anyone wishing to give public comments for or against this conditional use, please do so at this time. Seeing none, we will revert back to the council.
I just want to make a comment, and then I'll make a motion on this. These additional addendums come from the actual conversation at P&Z, and it's sort of my understanding that when that is the understanding, when P&Z passes them out, then they should be put into writing, reduced to writing, so that we all remember what we agreed to. So I appreciate that won't be a conflict for you. I'll make a motion that we approve this conditional use. Get your husband's name real quick. For Rodney Johnson at 3 West Parkway, Suite E, 101, 3 West Parkway, Suite E, with the conditions as approved by P&Z staff and in the addendum.
Second.
Have a motion seconded by Councilmember Carter. Any discussion? Not, all in favor? Welcome to the community, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 3.
Hello again. Lenise Lyons, Planning and Zoning Specialist. Next case is RA 06-18 for a plan development concept plan. The purpose is Winchester Real Estate Investment Company, LLC of Villa Rica, Georgia, requests a plan development concept plan approval for property located at 55 and 63 Goldworth Road, Villa Rica, Georgia. Parcel numbers V07-014-0004 and V07-014-0003 in land lot 99 of the 6th District in Carroll County. Currently zoned rural development. The properties consist of 204.1 plus or minus acres and are located in Ward 2. As a background, the applicants are requesting a plan development concept plan approval from council this evening. The purpose, their proposed use is a mixed-use development with a life plan community based on the application. This will be a private community with limited access to the general public. So, last week at the Planning and Zoning Commission, staff went through the application, but really, we kind of focused on what this process is that we're undergoing with the plan development. You've had a few plan developments in the city, none of this scale and scope. So most of the subdivisions that you have, Mirror Lake, Augusta Woods, much of the purple on the zoning map is our planned development. But for the most part, they're all single use, with the exception maybe of Mirror Lake, as it has a commercial component as well as just the single family and the recreation with the golf course and other amenities provided. So how and why are these regs different from any other rezoning application? So with the conditional use permits and a standard rezoning, there would be two hearings. One with planning and zoning for a recommendation. Second would be with you all for approval. The plan development process is multi-step. So we have one with the plan development concept plan, which is what they're requesting approval on tonight. And then once they receive that approval, they'll go back out, see what they can lay down with this plan that they're looking to get approved tonight. And then they'll come back to us, to Planning and Zoning Commission, and come back to you all for final development plan approval. So the rezoning doesn't happen until that final development plan, which will have a plat showing how the residential will be set up, how the commercial will be set up. So the way we've envisioned it as staff, as we've been working with them for a year now, this is going to be multi-step, and it won't be something that happens quick, fast, and in a hurry. We'll have many opportunities to take a look at this. How we got here, when I started November 2017, I was introduced to this project and working with the applicants. And from the beginning, we saw that the scope of it was large, 200 acres with some interesting terrain, a parcel that's sat for a very long time undeveloped on a commercial corridor. So from the onset, we said this is something that probably needs to go to Three Rivers Regional Commission as a development of regional impact. So we initiated that process once we were comfortable with the application that was provided by the applicant. It underwent that process. In your packet of information, you got the recommendations or the results of the development of regional impact conducted by Three Rivers. And mostly there were comments from us, I believe, North Georgia, I can't remember the name, from them, from Three Rivers themselves. But that's the sum of the comments, and those were taken in consideration with this application. The applicants also provided a traffic impact study, because what they're proposing is a considerable amount of residential, which is going to be to 161 plus or minus homes in pocket neighborhoods over 90 acres, 280 plus or minus units in 10 homes, 10 of multifamily, 24 acres of commercial, 35.05 acres of life plan community. So in this development, we'll have single family, multifamily, commercial, and some institutional uses. Something I've never experienced as a planner. So it's quite a formidable project. Also in that area, we have the Williams Mitchell Farm and Camp Lucretia, which in the application they pointed out these are historical landmarks in the city. So one is on the National Historic Register of Places, and that's the Williams Mitchell Farm. Camp Lucretia is not on that historical register. It's not on our local or state registers either. But in the application, you see that they have plans and have agreed to work to preserve this as a feature that the community can have access to. So what we have tonight, like I said, we have a site that's what we're calling less than ideal. We have a project that has a large scale and content, and so we did not have everything that we needed to review this application. So the multi-step process allows us to check ourselves, to do checkpoints and do milestones within the process. to help, well, to bring the project so we can get a better picture as we move forward. We anticipate speaking back and forth with the applicant throughout this process, speaking with you all, speaking with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the community about this project, because it's, something we've never seen before. So as we asked the essential question to Planning and Zoning Commission, do we like the proposed use, which is the Life Plan Community, which is a mix of commercial, of residential and institutional. And looking at the comp plan update we just did, it definitely fits in that suburban village concept that we've adopted along Highway 61, State Route 61. So in the staff report, we point out that there are some limitations. As you're aware, there's Bay Springs Creek that runs through that parcel north to south. So we have some local and state water buffer issues there. With it being on 61, they'll have to comply with the Georgia Department of Transportation recommendations as far as how we access the property, how many upgrades will have to be made along that corridor. But that's all something that they'll have to consider as they try to move this project forward. So we did point out that there are some limitations as it comes to our community facilities along 61, in particular the sewer. That property historically has been rural development, so it's been a farm for many, many years. Adding 161 houses, 24 acres of commercial, 35 acres of life plan, institutional uses, undoubtedly will impact that infrastructure there. So considerable upgrades will have to be made on site by the applicant and off site by the city to help bring this thing to accommodate really what they're proposing in their application. With the Williams Mitchell Farm, we'll talk about that in the staff recommendations, but we did make note that is something that that staff does have concern and has identified that we're gonna have to work through in the future, regardless if this project happens or not. That is something that is crucial to the development now and in the future of 61. So the plan development itself should create more efficient infrastructure, reduce your traffic demands, create more usable public and private open space, provide recreation amenities, and diversify the housing choices, which as far as the infrastructure, we don't know what that's gonna look like yet, because we're not, they're not ready to go endeavor into that, and that's something that would be have considerable capital needed in order to figure that out. And that's something that staff has conceded that this is something that we'll have to work on as we move this project forward. More usable open, public and private open space with the restoration of the farm and Camp Lucretia. We think those will be considerable community assets to preserve something that, on that corridor before it looks like something that it never did before. So I think that's a great opportunity there. And on top of the recreation amenities, so they're including an observation tower, picnic area, swimming pool, water features, extensive walking trails, volleyball court, and public amphitheater. So, and also through the Gold Nugget Trail plan that was recently adopted, proposed segments of the trail will go on that property. And that's an improvement that we'll have to work with the owners in order to get that built the way we've said that we want it designed. So this is maybe one of our first attempts at a public-private partnership to get those trail features in there. The housing choices, they're ranging from square footage from 750 to 2,400 square feet. We typically have never seen a house that size in some of the newer developments at 750. But it does provide a level of, most likely a level of range points that will help get people into the community, bring people into Villa Rica, and bring some more needed housing options for our community members. So at this point, we're at the concept plan phase. Oh, excuse me, y'all. That's what happened. Thank you. That's enough
It's a big
time,
development.
That was a lot of talking too.
isn't it?
I understand.
I could
Good
ask a
grief.
question in between if that would help.
Oh, yeah, come on, come on.
Okay. This was a massive amount of material to cover. But I did it. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I guess what I want to know in a nutshell, and you may need to chime in on this, Tom. In a nutshell, if we were to approve this tonight, it doesn't lock us into everything else, because from what I read was that we don't have all the information we're going to want down the road, but they would have to invest tons of money to give us that information. So, number one, can we feel safe with moving ahead with this? Because, as Lenise said, there's going to be lots of checkpoints, and a TAD could play into it, a tax allocation district, which could be really helpful for Villa Rica. Okay.
So in a typical rezoning, we go to P and Z and they vote, and we go to council and you vote, and you're done. In a typical plan development, if there is such a thing, it's probably not, but it would go to P and Z for a vote and council for a vote at a conceptual level. And then after plans are developed more completely, it would go back to council only for a vote. This is not going to be even that. At a minimum, this is going to be a P and Z vote and a council vote tonight, really at an idea level. And then maybe 6 months from now, it's going to come back to P and Z, because whatever exists as the plan at that point is not going to be substantially like this in all respects, which triggers it going back to P and Z. P and Z is going to see it a second time, and you're going to see it a second time. And then whatever comes out of that is going to go back, and the developer will work on it some more, and eventually it will come back either to you for a final, or it's going to go to P and Z a third time. Okay? And then you a third time, and then a final after that, or a fourth time, right? It just depends on how long it takes for the developers to go from an idea to a plan of this scale, with this topography, with all the considerations, different uses, and all the historic stuff, and the trail and the sewer and everything. It's just complicated.
Is it, tonight we're being asked to rezone this from RD to PD? Is that what we've been asked to do?
What you're doing is you're approving the concept
Yeah.
of the PD, but they're not going to get rezoning until your final vote, as I understand it.
And I want to make sure I get on the record also, is exactly what you've said, which is that this is the approval of the concept plan, which is saying go forward with it. The city is okay with you doing further planning. What this does not do is rezone the property and
Okay.
create vested rights, which is the critical legal component, is because if you vote to create vested rights in somebody by rezoning the property, then they can walk in tomorrow and say, I want my permit to start building. That's not what we're doing here tonight. It is not creating vested rights in a legal sense in the developer yet, but it is telling the developer the plan is okay, proceed, and start taking those steps to get you to the vested right stage.
You sort of, that was exactly what I was going to say. I wasn't going to say it as eloquently as you did. But this is basically saying we either do want you or do not want you in the city of Villa Rica, then the process moves forward. The questions that I received were just, are we rezoning this tonight? And the answer to that, obviously, as you just stated, is not.
No.
We're not rezoning at this point.
We're
So,
just approving the concept.
That's right.
any questions of staff? Would the P&Z like to make any comments?
John Hatterback, 3106 Golfers Way. Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning. We had an extensive discussion of this at our last meeting, and we covered a lot of the things that you're questioning tonight. We have a lot of concerns about the concept as it was presented, but this is not the time to be concerned about those. We had a lengthy discussion with the developer. He's very amenable to the changes that we discussed. There were some extensive discussions about financing for this project, but you know, he's aware of those. I've got real problems with sewer in that area, but these are all to be determined. We approved the concept at Planning and Zoning, and that's what's being presented to you. I think this is a logical extension of Villa Rica along Highway 61. There are going to be major problems just with traffic and access and egress into and out of that facility. But that's all yet to be determined, and that, of course, is going to be controlled by GDOT. So a lot of things yet to be considered, but as I understand it, this is maybe years away from our final approval, and we have a lot of questions and concerns, as I'm sure you do. But we approved it, and would like to see the concept go forward and hear more from the developer. So I think it's a good addition for Villa Rica, but a lot of things yet to be considered, including the possibility of a TAD. So we approved it.
Thank you, sir. David, do we need to have a public hearing on this? This is a concept?
Yeah, I would say that we need to.
Okay.
Anytime we have this type of a zoning hearing where it's been advertised, which it has been advertised, that we should.
Okay. Anyone wishing to come forward at this time and speak?
You gonna let the developer speak also?
I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. I'll ask the developer to come up at this time. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Jay Davis. I live at 9505 East Tyson Road, the city of Villa Rica, Georgia, right over the line in Douglas County, where I've lived for, I think, almost going on 4 years now, but I've been here since 1979, except for a couple of years in the U.S. Army Infantry out in Fort Lewis, Washington. I've lived here. I went to school at West Georgia for undergraduate, and then law school at Georgia State. And during the whole time, I've been everything here from a janitor for many years to pay for my school, all the way up to practicing law now. I'm the appointed county administrator and conservator for Douglas County's probate court. That's the basic underlying principle behind why I identified a need for our community and why we're here tonight. It started there. I brought you physical pictures that may be bigger than your little monitors for the map. So I brought 11 by 17s for all of you. For anybody in the audience that's interested, I'll make sure that you have a copy before you leave, up to 15 copies.
Thank you.
First, before we get much further along, I need to express my gratitude to staff and to Tom Barber. Lenise and Tom have been great. Celise has been great. The support that we've received for the last year and a half getting ready for this has been a lot. They've worked really hard at helping us get here, and I'm very appreciative. So thank you both out loud in front of all these folks. Many of the folks here tonight are my friends. Some of them are my neighbors. Thank you for coming. There's probably plenty of other folks here from the community, and I'm grateful for you all being here tonight. And I'll have my cards here available. If you want to email me or call me, you're welcome to do so. At any rate, Lenise told me I only had 10 minutes tonight, so my 30-minute presentation from last week got dropped down to a map tonight. So I apologize in advance for not, there's a lot of high-minded ideals and altruism behind this, and a lot of philosophical verbiage that I was going to throw at you about why we need it and what all the purposes are. But let me just say this. Tonight we've brought you a concept plan of a community that is based on the thought that we need a better solution for dealing with senior issues in our community from a full-on collaborative community basis. the city already does all of the things that my community proposal here has in front of you. You already do a really good job of having housing. There's already a really good opportunity for hospitalization and clinical needs, and there's all sorts of, with Ashbrook Village and with the personal care homes and with the home health care stuff that's distributed throughout the city. We already have nearly all of these things. But what we don't have currently is a one-stop solution for folks who are aged that cannot have the support they need in one spot. And so the thinking behind doing it this way is that I build a life care community that's got 190 spots in what we hope is phase 1 and ultimately more. And I've got a lot of supporting market data that I think you've had the opportunity to read that supports that there's room for not only 190 units, but upwards of 1,000 are really needed in our region that are not currently being met. And so what the planning here is, it goes back to banking. And one of the folks on the planning commission is I think a retired banker. And so he had a lot of very pointed questions about how I'm going to pay for this and what's going on. So we had to back into the result that we're trying to achieve, which is a mid-market type community that is cheap enough or economical enough, let me not say cheap, economical enough for the citizens that live here now to afford. Most of these places, the life care communities that are built in our country, are built for the top 3 to 5% income folks in the nation. So they're in places that have really high income bases. Our income base is distributed across the spectrum from about 37,000 all the way up to 75,000. So we're what is considered nationally a mid-market community. The banks that fund these things don't have a mid-market solution, generally speaking. What they have is a high-market solution. So what we're attempting to do here is create a community-supported life care units that will be able to be affordable to our community. And the way that we do that is by building a community around it that's supportive of it, both in health and wellness and in economical support. I think I managed to use the word subsidized in the last meeting, and that worried some folks. The subsidy is not affordable housing as is recognized on a federal level. It's not Section 8 housing. It's not any of that. We're going to both sell and rent market-based housing. That's the plan that surrounds this community. But everybody's going to belong to a homeowners association that the community is a part of that helps support the amenities, not only for the seniors, but for everybody. That backs into the financial argument about what folks pay. So I suppose some of you may have some folks at the Benton House in Douglasville. If you buy assisted living there on a monthly basis for a resident, you're looking between $5,500 and $6,500 a month for basically the nicest place in our region in assisted living. If you go to memory care, the nicest one, closest one is in Austell. It's upwards of $8,500 a month. If you're talking about independent living in an apartment style that's got some sort of maintenance, that's upwards of $3,500 a month. So all of those prices are too high for our mid-market community. So what we're going to try to do, and we're going to do that by having commercial, by having residential, and by having the life care piece and the amenities piece kind of all tied together, is that we're going to bring the cost down by sharing some of those costs. We're going to do a distributive model for the amenities package for programming for seniors. So in the typical life care community, you might have a pool that they belong to, and you'll have cafeterias, and you'll have a lot of other amenities, dining rooms, and all this sorts of stuff. That's typically a third of the cost, and we're going to share those costs. When I subsidize them, I'm talking about sharing costs with the community at large by having those facilities open to the public. That also answers another need, which is the socialization of the seniors who live in this community. The number one reason that folks pass away sooner when they're placed in these communities is because they don't have good socialization with the outside community that they've been living in for 30 or 40 or 50 years. So we are bringing the community to them. They'll be a part of it right here from the beginning. The folks that live in the neighborhood will have the opportunity to eat in the same restaurants. The folks that live here will have the opportunity to work out in the same gyms and take part in the same senior programming and the adult daycare and the child daycare and so forth that goes along with it. So the concept that you're approving today Although all the buildings are laid out on this map, it was mostly done prior to the water study that was done, so we got to move the water features over a little bit. It was done prior to the final DRI being completed. We had to turn in the application when we had this available. So we're going to move some of that stuff around. So that's why at this stage it's a concept. It will include single-family residential. The plan is for it not to be limited on the single-family residential side to 55 and up. Because what we want available is the opportunity for families to move in and let their mom live in either the multifamily that is limited to 55 and up or the senior life care piece without having to, go to Carrollton or go to Douglasville to live because there's not a whole lot of new housing right here right now. So what we're trying to provide is a community-based opportunity for health and wellness planning for seniors. And we think that this plan, although it's not perfect at this stage, we're pretty certain we can get there in the next 6 months. And I know Tom's got some doubts about timing, but I've been working on this for 3 years, and we're ready. We're programmed. I've hired the best people in the business, literally the best people in the business to work on this. Ron Connors is my manager here. He's run multi-million-dollar company in healthcare planning and healthcare. He's already built one of these life care facilities down in Macon, Carlisle Place, a very good one. I hired THW Design, who is the premier, largest, most dedicated to senior planning design architects in the country. I hired Glenn Devens Marketing. They did the market study. They sent out, to get that market study data, they sent out over 20,000 questionnaires to residents of our area. They did an online Facebook survey as well, and they combined all that data, and they got back the strongest, most robust response of need for care in senior housing anywhere in the country in the last 5 years. They worked really hard to put that together, and as a next stage, they're going to actually meet with folks who responded, who said they wanted to be part of the next stage, to actually ask them, what size house do you want? Where do you want it? What kind of amenities do you care about? Are you okay with this distributed plan? All the sorts of things that are necessary to help really design a community that fits our neighborhood. I hired Dixon Hughes Goodman for the accounting work. They're one of the largest senior planning accounting firms in the country. They're based right out of here, out of Atlanta. So they'll be helping with the money from the beginning to just help design the business plan and to help us stay on course. Let's see, who else did we hire? BB&T Financial Markets. That's the biggest piece of this puzzle. So the way that you fund these suckers from a nonprofit standpoint is by floating a bond that is backed by or built by BB&T Financial Marketplaces. That's backed by a bond issued by them over a 30-year period. In order to qualify that, you have to come in from a nonprofit basis. So we'll be working with a nonprofit manager. So whether I own the building or whether I sell the building to the nonprofit, it will be a nonprofit-based approach for the life care community under their program, and it's a senior bond financing program. So it's special. They treat it differently. It's got good rates. I can get 30-year bond at about 5.5 right now for about $50 million, which is what we think the life care community is going to cost. And that will take place over the next couple of years. They'll work the program with us. We'll get it all qualified, and then we'll get it built and filled up. And so we'll bring automatically that level of financial commitment to the community just in the life care piece alone. Our estimate from a job standpoint related to that is that the communities, you're basically a one-for-one in regard to employees. So we'll have 190 to 200 units there in the life care piece. You need about 200 employees to manage that on both a full-time and part-time basis. That's just, again, for the life care piece, disregarding any commitment from commercial folks that we're working on over time, and I'll be happy to share that with you if you're interested. What we're asking you for is approval of the concept tonight that helps us get to the next stage of planning and zoning. And I don't think I'm going to need 4 times. I'm going to get it right in the next 6 months, so we can do this one more time and get it right. But in the meantime, I'm going to make sure y'all have all the information that you need, that planning and zoning has all the information that they need. The one guy who voted against me, I'm going to make sure he's my number one cheerleader when we're done here. Because ultimately, if it's not good for us, then it's not worth doing. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be heard tonight, and I'm ready to answer any questions you got.
With that, any questions of the applicant?
Are you going to do this in stages? on this map?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And the first stage, the way that it'll get done, let's assume that we get 6 or 9 months down the road and I'm zoned and it's accepted. What has to happen then is we then go from land use planning into full-on architectural planning. To get from here to the next 6 months is 500 grand from me. Another $2 million to $3 million is what has to be spent on actual physical design of the facility, and that comes at the next stage of financing from BB&T. So that will take them, the planning will probably take another 6 months, and then they'll bring that back. We'll get all the construction approvals from the city, and we can start building that. In the meantime, our hope is, and our plan is, that we've got the city, the commercial lots and the residential lots singled out enough that we can begin to do the infrastructure work. If you want to talk about the TAD, I'm happy to answer questions about how we hope to work with the city to get that done. But yes, sir, it's phased, and hopefully while we're working on the full architectural plans and designs and all the engineering stuff that goes along with that, we'll be working with the city to get infrastructure developed and all the rest of the stuff so that we can actually support the commercial and the residential parts. We'll turn in a timeline and a bunch of phases as a part of the next stage.
Any other questions?
I had read over it, but I also called Lenise to ask a couple questions. You clarified further, because I kept thinking, how is everybody in this entire thing 55 and up? You clarified that.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you answered that, other than the fact that I didn't know that I was aged now that I was over 55. So
Sorry.
that concerned me, but other than that, based on what you said, this is the beginning. So I'm like, let's go.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm available if y'all got any more questions.
At this time, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to give comments for or against this development, please do so at this time. Please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Barbie Daniel. My address is 836 North Bay Overlook here in Villa Rica. Thanks for letting me come today. I really don't have a problem with really the subdivision. The reason that I saw it is I saw the yellow sign, and it sparked my interest because of where the yellow sign was put was at the now locked gate at the bottom of the hill that leads to the water tower, which is the water supply for Villa Rica. And I brought this tonight. This is my family. This is all of us. So we use a lot of water in Villa Rica. This was our Christmas picture last year, but it's a little different this year because my oldest son, right there, he's my next oldest, he took a trip through that fence up to the top of that hill and took a hike to the top of that water tower where he fell and lost his life the end of October. So I'm here today as you guys have yellow signs up to build a community, which I think sounds beautiful. Because when I grow older, I wouldn't mind living in a nice little house. My kids could live in the neighborhood and take care of me. My concern is that a neighborhood has kids. Charleston Place has kids. We live in Bay Springs. We've lived there for 11 years, across the street. I never even knew the tower was there until my kid went out. We couldn't find him. We looked for him for days, and we found him on Sunday at the bottom of that tower. Through the funeral, 17 children have spoke to me, telling me, we go there all the time. We took pictures up there at the prom. Had a mom tell me at the Carroll County Christmas concert. She was 40 years old. She said, you want to know where I spent my 20th birthday? Taking pictures was the top of the water tower. The tower's locked now. It's locked up because I took flowers up there. The day they found my son, they walked right in. And I think it's so important. I love Villa Rica. I got little cheerleaders. I got kids in Rica all over this town. And this is an amazing town, amazing community that's loved my family through this terrible time. But I don't want someone else's Christmas picture to change over a year because we got to lock this thing up. If we're going to build another community, one of my friends that looked with days for me, for my son, lives in Charleston Place. And we were outside her house the other day and realized how eerie it was that tall, dark monster on the hill, that mom and dads, we don't even know it's up there. But it is so important to protect it because it's all of our water, keeps us all safe and healthy. It has to be protected. Like Donald Trump barbed wire needs to be around it. Like it needs to be locked up, especially when we talk about building another community where kids and people, boys know stuff. They know where all this stuff is and we don't. And I just think that's my only request. If you build a community, but let's keep the ones that we have safe. Let's lock it up. That's my mother's, that's why I'm here. I want that to be, I think something that's really important too that we need to remember is that when something bad happens, adults go, ooh, that's dangerous. But it almost for kids makes it kind of more interesting, more intriguing, more of a draw. That's the last thing I want. I want there to be a huge deterrent. So I think that that's real important that we keep that safe so we can keep all these kids safe. And if we do this beautiful community, anybody that goes in there and grows up there safe. Okay? Thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate it. I did it without crying, so I'm happy. Thank you.
Condolences, ma'am, to you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, the action will revert back to the council.
I think the concept itself is a good one, so I'll make a motion, we approve the concept.
Second.
Wait a second. You're gonna read the way the motion reads? While he's doing that, let me just say, I too share some concerns, and I've talked to you a little bit about it, Jay. I'm gonna support this as well at this conceptual level, but so that the public knows there's a lot more to be done. There's gonna be a lot more things looked at as we move forward, but I think at this stage, I'm glad to see this kind of project being looked at by the city.
Yeah, I was gonna make some comments after the motion in a second. So, Danny, do you want to state the motion?
Yeah, let me get down here to where they have it.
If not,
All
somebody.
right, I make a motion to approve with conditions the plan development concept plan application from Winchester Real Estate Investment LLC for the property located at 55 and 63 Goldworth Road.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Seconded by Councilmember McPherson. Did you get that, Elisa? Okay. As far as comments are concerned, this is a very ambitious project, very ambitious. I've said a lot of times, this is not my first rodeo, but this will be my first rodeo. And with that said, I just want to say that to staff, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, to the elected officials that I have the pleasure of serving with up here, this is our chance to get it right. Things that may have been done wrong in the past, now it's in our lap. So I would hope that all of us in that process look at each thing individually so that we don't have 31 lift stations moving forward in the city, so that when we put in sewer lines that we compact around those sewer lines so we don't have roads that are closed for weeks at a time. And I would just, and I know we all feel this the same way, but this is on us. This is on all of us. So everybody needs to get it right. We need to make sure that we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So those are my comments.
You want to call the vote?
Right. We have motion second. All in favor? Unanimous. You're on to the next step.
Thank you. Let me go deeper in debt. That's kind of.
It's another point, it's your money.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, want
What I've provided on the next item is our paving list that we put together, consisting of 6.71 miles. It's an ambitious list. I have not done an engineering takeoff on how far we hope our money will go. I will have that done within the next 3 to 4 days. We've got Douglas County roads listed and Carroll County roads listed, more heavily on the Carroll side, of course, because there's older streets on that side. We've got some gravel sections listed that we're trying to get paved. You know, for years and years and years, I've always thought we need to pave our streets, our gravel streets, as quickly as possible. Just takes the maintenance out of it. We think we've got about $875,000 total with Carroll Splost, Douglas Splost, some builder contributions on some final topping, and possibly some general fund dollars going into this year's paving list. So we hope to get it out for bid here in the next couple weeks so we can hopefully get it done as quickly as possible. And, you know, I shared the list because, you know, if y'all got any comments, if you've got any questions, if you've got roads that you want to add, question, et cetera, I'm here to answer.
I just want to say that in addition to this one, and I haven't mentioned this, and I apologize for that, but the subdivision on Stockmar Road that has the crack issues, can we add sealing those cracks, the large cracks that you can?
The subdivision,
is that Brandywine?
Brandywine?
Yeah.
Brandywine has got some crack issues, and it's got some settlement, differential settlement with some utility lines in the new phase where the lots have not been built out that are way worse than the other portion, but we can do that, yes.
Crack sealing is about $1 a foot, so, I mean, I was just, you know, if we can address, and I'm talking about the ones you can stick that pin in, if we can crack seal those, not crack fill, crack seal those, it'll maybe preserve those roads for a few more years. So I haven't mentioned that to you, and I apologize. The second thing that I want to point out is that beginning last year, we are now milling out these subdivisions rather than just continuing to put 2 more inches of asphalt on 6 or 8 inches of asphalt.
Mayor, milling is included on every single street
I
that
know
has
that.
asphalt on it.
I know that, but I wanted, since I'm in the asphalt business, I wanted to make sure.
We have one street, and I won't mention any names, that the asphalt surface is higher than the curb, back of the curb.
Absolutely.
I think he's pointing out that in previous years, that didn't happen.
Right.
And contributed to a number of problems around the city. And he's right to point out that is being done here.
Yes.
Any questions?
No
Couple,
questions, but I do have a comment. I really appreciate the people in the audience don't see this, but this is what he gave us tonight.
I apologize for that old school map.
That's okay.
I like
If you could
this.
get up close and look at this, these things are scattered all across the city. They're not all located one side or the other.
And
Covered the
what I
city.
can do, when we finalize, when I get the list adjusted to final bid time, I will revise this map and we will publish it on the website.
Bobby, there's a lot of old school up here. I mean,
Hey.
Over there.
Hey, hey.
Use it
They
every-
enjoy these.
He's calling us elderly again.
You know, I
It's
know
a
we've
lot
been
of
here-
paper to move around.
I know we've been here a long time, but something happened to me at Weight Watchers. I was talking to a school teacher. She was talking about the new math. I said, look, I'm an engineer in Georgia. Don't even bring new math up. I don't want to hear it. So anyway.
Amen. I don't want to hear it either.
Okay.
I got a couple questions. That's okay, but I think we can cover them pretty quick. South Dogwood Street, and I would also mention from Councilwoman Marchman's Cleghorn Street. On South Dogwood, you had talked that we would move forward with traffic calming. So since I saw them on the list, will those speed bumps be considered for South Dogwood after that paving gets done?
I've done the traffic analysis on South Dogwood. Yes, we'll make that happen beforehand. Of course, we've got
we've got a major repair to do with the sewer problem we've got that's gonna have to come with it, so, yeah.
Because I know we don't want to do those things before we do.
Right.
And if you'd at least make a notation that Councilwoman Marchman had the same concern for Cleghorn Street, way back when we started talking about putting that money in the budget for speed humps.
I have not studied Cleghorn yet.
Okay, so you might.
Yeah, well, we moved Cleghorn to the bottom because we've got major
Okay.
water sewer
Okay.
projects. That's why we moved it to back. We may not get to it on this list.
Okay, I saw them on the list.
Right.
Barber Drive, the county owns about 2/3 of that street or more, so what are we paving? Are we just paving the edge or our portion?
Mr. Barber and I have discussed approaching the county to maybe go into a partnership to get that paved.
You know what the holdback was for the people out there is because the county said that what they require for easement was going to take fences, landscaping, and the consensus at that time is people weren't too crazy about
Well,
that.
some of these narrow streets, if you immediately require 50-foot right-of-way, it's gonna take folks' front porches in some of these
It
smaller
was almost,
areas.
it looked like it was almost half their yard, so,
And-
but I don't have to know that.
And
I think that's it.
number 22 on the list is Daniel Road. If
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice it on the map, it's right next to the top of your page, right there at your left finger. It's got a substantial portion on the south end that's also county.
Mm-hmm.
And we blade it with a motor grader because,
Nobody else will?
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
so that one also needs to be completed, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it in the time frame we've got.
Bobby, I do have one more that sparked a question or concern. I get this all the time. There are roads that are not on this list, and the one thing I think that makes a lot of us mad is when we see the city or county or state or federal government come in, you know what I'm about to say, and they pave a street and it looks all nice, and then they come in 3 months later and they tear the street up and put in, we're not gonna do that. So if your street's not on here, North Avenue comes to mind. North Avenue is a train wreck as far as the road's concerned. But the reason that's not on the list is because the sewer line runs down the middle of the road. So before we
It was on the
spend
list,
money.
Mayor, but I pulled it off.
Right.
I knew we weren't gonna be able to get that
I just
project
wanted to
done in
make
time.
make that comment because a lot of people have that concern, as do I. Any other comments?
I just want to ask one question about Brandywine. I think I appreciate you bringing that up. To what percent is that subdivision filled out? Do you know?
I don't know, I haven't calculated it, but there's a bunch of lots left. And we will collect the maintenance fee on that when those happen?
Because that has not been top coated, has it?
No.
That's
The
one
new
of
phase has
reasons
not
that
been.
It's as bad as it is, but I just wanted to,
It's the worst we have in town.
Yeah, and that's why I wouldn't consider, topping it at this
Right.
time. But seal coating is relatively inexpensive, but it does,
Yeah.
you need to really seal coat even if you're gonna put the top on it.
right, I agree with that, just for those who might
I
have
mean, not
questions
silver,
about
crack
why
silver.
that's not happening. Because it needs to reach 75%.
And we are, as we sell permits now in developments that were not completed, no final top coat, we're collecting fees on all of them. Number one and number two on this list, we got enough dollars to top those out. The others we're collecting, but we don't have funds sufficient to do all of it. But we are collecting that fee.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tom, real quick. We were able to get a really good company last time because we had enough roads and everything. Are we in the same situation on this?
We're gonna be short, I think.
No, that's why we're talking about maybe coming back and asking
Okay.
that we add enough to get it up to $1 million or so. Because we really
We got really good
enjoyed
quality
both
work
the
last time.
cooperation and the quality, both.
All right. Ready for a motion?
Absolutely.
Make a motion to move forward with the bidding process on the 2018 19th Street resurfacing list.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tab C, Finance, Sarah?
Leslie's gonna be happy, that's his street.
Good evening. First, Elisa, will you pull up the sheet that looks like this? First is another request for budget amendments. Be bringing these to y'all probably every meeting. Couple things that have been addressed in the past few meetings. Last one was the $5,000 grant we received from Norfolk Southern. That is going towards the police body cameras. So here we're increasing the revenue for that donation and then increasing the expense as well. That'll be in the General Fund Capital Projects Fund. The next is in our old 2008 SPLOST. We needed to build a sign at our new customer service building, which is the old Georgia Power building, and also building a staircase between customer service building and City Hall. And that's been, I guess, quoted out at $15,000, so we need to increase that expense in the SPLOST for $15,000 and decrease, we had savings, well, we had money for the old library remodel for City Hall, which was budgeted when we discussed SPLOST a while back. So I'm taking it out of there. And then the second item is we needed some additional money for the body cameras that the police department is buying. And we had savings, actually Jim saved us over $12,000 in the courtroom audio visual. So we're gonna put that towards, yes, yay Jim. So we're gonna put that towards the body cameras. And then lastly, in our state seizure fund, we needed $1,200 more to finish out the body cam purchase that we're making. So that's gonna come from our state seizures fund. So again, increasing the line item. We're actually using fund balance because we don't necessarily have active revenue coming in with that, but they have a fund balance that's been built up over years. So we'll use that, and then the offset is the expenditure line item.
Any questions?
Well, tell me a little bit about this new sign. It's the first time I've heard about this $15,000 sign.
It's both.
There's a sign in the stairs, both.
Yes, I don't remember the breakdown of it, but it's a brick sign to look like the one out front of City Hall. It'll say customer service, City of Villa Rica, in front of the Georgia Power building, and then the stairs. I want to say one was around 9,000 and the other one was 5,000 for the stairs.
You're saying outside stairs going from the Georgia Power building down to?
From the
Okay.
parking lot, yeah, that's where the
Did
ladies.
we bid that out, or
walking back and forth.
are we gonna do that ourselves?
No, Nick, I think Nick, didn't he bid it? I think it was Nick that did the bid work on that.
Like those are some expensive stairs. Is it a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we've got the ladies walking up and down
No,
the bank with heels on, and
No, I
It's
believe we
not
need the
safe.
stairs for the customers and for, if it's the best we can do, it's the best we can do.
well, we're planning on being there, so. Moving up there has been a great move.
Okay, so let me ask the obvious question here. So when I'm looking at the report, you know, just with my experience in construction, what portion of that is the staircase, the concrete sidewalk, and what portion is the sign?
I believe the sign was the more expensive portion. It was under 10,000, that's why it didn't come before council, because Tom has the purchasing authority up to 10,000, but it would have been bid out, 3 bids. And then the stairs, I believe, was 5,000 or less.
Okay. Kind of have a little bit of heartburn about that, but needs to be done. I mean, it's going to be done anyway, but I think these are the kinds of things that we'd like to take a look at. But I'm willing to go along with it. I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance to approve an amendment to the budget for the fiscal year 2019 for the city pursuant to section 271 of the city charter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous. Item 2.
Next, this is a discussion-only item. I don't want to get too deep into numbers or anything. Just wanted to hear the council's thoughts on credit card fees. So right now, we'll show you the table. This is 5 years of credit card fee history. You can see how much it's increased. So right now, for utilities, community development, recreation, Pine Mountain, the city absorbs the credit card fees. In 2016, the court changed software to Government Window, and Government Window's platform it's a no-cost service. So they charge the fees directly onto the customer. So the city doesn't pay anything for the credit card transactions that occur. However, we use a different different credit card processor for utilities and also a different one for recreation as well. So you can see the increasing credit card fees here. In the last 9 months of our last fiscal year, we were already up to $70,000 in just 9 months, which is about equal to our 12 months in 2017. You can see a spike there. Well, utilities has grown. It's just kind of, it's hard to compare 12 months to 9 months, but it has grown just with user increase. Community development, though, you see a big spike. That's the second line. You can see a big spike in our 9 months, but we are doing more permitting and things, and people, if they're using credit cards for those large payments, then we're paying a much larger credit card fee. Recreation and Pine Mountain Library, those are pretty minimal, and then you can see in court we don't pay anything anymore. So just wondering, I've been speaking to Government Window. Again, they're already our vendor for court, and I've talked to them a little bit about utilities and community, taking on the other ones as well. Again, their pitch is it's a no cost to the city because the fees go directly to the customer. So I was just wanting to hear from the council, is there appetite for that? What are your thoughts on passing credit card fees back to the customer?
Absolutely.
So
As for it to be addressed a couple of years ago in the budget. I don't know why we're eating all those fees. And I'm a customer who likes to use it. But
We talked about this probably 18 months ago. But I'm gonna say, what you're doing tonight is just gauging the, and I'm gonna say, I'm going to be in favor of passing these costs on when it comes to utilities and community development. I am less inclined to do that with recreation or Pine Mountain or the library. That's how those are the minimal pieces, but those are also places where I don't see where we need to tack on an extra fee to what we're already doing. Those are consumer services. When you go to buy a ticket at some other place, let's just say Pine Mountain, that's what they sell over there is tickets to ride that train. I just don't see how we add on a fee for that. So that's how I'm gonna feel about it right now.
I feel like we should pass on all the fees, and the city should not be absorbing the fees for the use of the credit card. That's the convenience that somebody wants to use. They know the fee's there. They use it anyway. I think they take it upon themselves to use it. It's convenient, so they ought to have to pay the fee.
And part of the fees are due to the reward programs. You know, these cards have miles and things on them, so there's benefit to it.
Disney points.
But the city doesn't necessarily need to pay for people's miles either.
But I just mentioned a bunch of private companies I deal with, you automatically pay a little bit more when you use that because it's costing them. And that's their own money. For us, when we absorb it, that's taxpayer dollars being used. That's not my money that's covering it. It's all of ours money that's covering that fee. So.
Even at the church, when they have supper on a Wednesday night, if they use the credit card, there's a fee attached to it. They pay the fee.
Wow, credit card for the church supper. Huh?
Sarah, the only thing I would add to that is to make sure that they're charging what's standard. I don't want them to charge an exorbitant fee that's passed on to our customers. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because I know just looking at some of the things that I pay online, there's a standard range of how much they charge for a convenience fee. So I don't want us to get stiffed, and in turn, I don't want our customers to get stiffed.
I don't want us to make money off of it. I just
Right.
want to pass along the cost.
Yeah, with the court, we don't interact with, from a financial standpoint, I don't see anything from Government Window. They're not charging me. We're not making money. They're not charging me. So no cost to the city.
Okay. Any other questions? This is for discussion, so will you bring this back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tab D, item number 1, Janet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I have is the update of the Main Street Advisory Board bylaws. I know, I can't help. The bylaws were initiated and adopted in 2015, so periodically we will go in and review and update. What you have before you is the original bylaws. You should have received those, and the updated changes we have are in red. Those would be on pages 3, 7, and 8. The board met in October and voted in November to update the bylaws. The purpose is to more accurately reflect the community's understanding of the boards and the standards and how we operate as a Main Street Board.
Don't stand quite so close to the mic.
Stand back
Used to
against the
having to
wall.
lean in.
It's
you're
very,
leaning
very
in.
sensitive.
I have no problem with these updated bylaws. I'll move that we accept the updated bylaws for the Main Street Advisory Board.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, ma'am.
The next item is the mill amphitheater rental agreement. These would be something we put online moving forward in 19 that we have the renters agree to in order to rent the mill. Those are highlights. I think the originator of those were via Parks and Recreation, and we made some changes to those, and those are also in red.
These personnel fees that you're adding on here, is this money that's paid to the city? It says $30 per hour for a maintenance supervisor, $25 an hour for a maintenance technician. You've got, for a large event, 2 staff minimum.
Yes.
These are monies paid to the city or to the staff? This is a
Paid to
way
the
for the city
staff.
to, these are paid directly to the staff.
Correct. And then if we have to hire, if it's a large group, then VRPD has to have security, and those guys are issued a check as well.
So their rental fee would be that $300 plus the cost of at least one employee, I think it said. Large events require 2. So that would go into the rental fee for anybody.
Such as Taste of Villa Rica, the Arts Festival, those are large events.
Do we currently provide these personnel
Correct.
and the city pays for it?
Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
Would the city also pay them during this time frame?
Well, most of them, this would be overtime for them or an additional event. Obviously, they get paid based upon 40 hours a week. So if we're using staff, that's why we require that they get paid by the actual. If it's a city event, we pay them. If it's an Taste of Villa Rica, then the actual, those people actually issue them a check.
So for clarification, this applies to anyone that would lease the amphitheater.
Correct.
He's going to pay for a maintenance supervisor, a maintenance technician.
Based upon the size of the event, yes.
Right, and that leads me to my next one. You have a large event requires 2 staff minimum. What is a large event?
Over 500.
In my opinion, that needs to be stated somewhere.
Okay.
Because I mean, I wouldn't know what the large event consisted of.
Yeah, it
And
needs to be
to be
rewritten.
determined by who?
So when they come and they request to do an event, we ask them at that time how large their event will be, estimate, and we base it upon that. And once they say a certain size, then that's when we bring VRPD in.
So that would be an off-duty police officer.
Correct.
I actually have a question about an item that wasn't one, it's not highlighted, so I'm assuming it's not a change here when it says, no weapons, prohibited items, it's listed as no weapons of any kind. David, do we have to clarify the fact if people have a carry license, that sort of thing, that would be considered a weapon, but it's,
It really is.
and you can't prohibit it?
Correct. That might need some more just to clarify that it doesn't interfere with any existing, does not interfere with any existing state laws.
David, have you had a chance to review this?
Tonight was the first time I'd seen it.
Okay. I think I would feel better if we tabled this to the next meeting. I'll make a motion to table this to January.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for discussion. Can you add that, the clarification of what a large event is in the document?
Yeah, the other one says over 200 people, so this one over 500 people, is that a large event?
It's a contradiction.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to table? I'm assuming to the next meeting?
To the January, what's the date? 8th.
January.
January 8th.
Yep.
All in favor? Unanimous? Next?
So the next item is the Downtown Development Authority appointments. Tom and I worked on this. We have some positions that we need to fill. The background is that the terms of 3 members of the DDA have expired. Carl Peabody, 4/1/218, Ryan Clark, 4/1/218, and Charlene Gilmore, 5/13/218. Charlene does not seek to be reappointed. Mr. Clark has not attended the state mandated training within the 1-year requirement by the state, and we did not feel like he should be eligible for reappointment. And Brian White resigned his seat, and his term was set to expire 1/22/2019. So we feel like we need to fill the 2 positions. The DDA is voted in October to recommend reappointment of Carl and Ryan Clark. They also voted to recommend the appointment of Matt Montahan. During the November meeting, the DDA board voted to create a subcommittee to recruit and interview candidates for the DDA board. The staff is recommending reappointing Carl Peabody to serve another term. We also recommend adding Matthew Montahan for a term expiring 4/1/22, and adding Debbie Hohenstein, who is a real estate agent, local business owner. We do suggest that we wait for the board's recommendation to fill the 4th position before taking additional action.
We got a clarification from our attorney today that Mr. Clark is not disqualified for being reappointed because he has not taken the required courses yet. Is that true, David?
Yes, he is not legally disqualified. I did clarify that by saying that that is a factor you can take into consideration in deciding whether to appoint him, but it is not a legal disqualification for a new term.
The council or the DDA?
The council appoints.
Oh.
But it's always been the DDA has always recommended members and the council approves them,
Okay.
which is not uncommon for any of our boards.
So you stated that in November, the DDA voted to recommend, to form some sort of a subcommittee to recommend additional members. When is that due?
We're having another meeting Monday. I don't know if they've interviewed people since
We have
then.
a meeting coming up on Monday?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion on which appointments to do and what maybe to defer.
Go ahead on.
Okay. And I do take the training seriously. In fact, I would highly recommend that anybody on the DDA that hasn't been to training in the last 5 years go again, because things change a lot and the training is very good on that. I would like to make a motion that we reappoint Carl Peabody and Ryan Clark, and that we defer on the other ones to the January 8 meeting until DDA has had time for their committee to do their evaluation. Then we can listen to staff, we can listen to what they say, and then we can make the final decision.
Are these the terms expiring on 4/1/22?
Who's that question to?
Janet?
You know, I'm not
To
sure
she-
that I know expiration dates.
Councilwoman McPherson made the
I don't have a
motion,
list
so I
of
wanted
the
to be
expert-
clear on,
they would be reappointments, and these would be for full terms. And it's 4 years, so that would make sense. Although, you know what, they expired some time ago,
They
correct?
did.
Right.
2 of them did. That's why we're wanting to fill those this year, because they expired several months ago.
Okay, the proposed motion on the packet says for Carl Peabody,
4/1 of 18 be 20.
4/1/22. Those are the 2 full terms, but it has a 3rd term, which ends in July of 2019. Are you leaving that one out?
Yes.
And you want those 2 names for 4/1/22?
Correct.
Okay. I think I understand the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I just want to make a couple of comments. Several DDA members are in the audience right here tonight, and Janet, this is going to sound like it's all directed at you, but I promise it's not. I'll take ownership of it. But I want us to, when I say us, I'm talking about me, you, the DDA, all of our volunteer boards, to feel like that they're a part of the decision-making process.
Right.
If I were on the DDA board, if my opinion would be, if I voted in November to have a subcommittee to elect people, to bring people, to vet the process so that the council could vote on those, then I would fully expect that the council not vote on anybody until that happens. That's my opinion. But the way that we're doing it now seems like a strike of a good compromise. But just moving forward, I would hope that we all, Tom and I have been attending those DDA meetings, the planning and zoning meetings, and we are all VR. And I want our volunteers to feel like, whether it's on P&Z board, the DDA, or any other board for that matter, to feel like they're needed. These are volunteers. And so I had a little bit of heartburn, I guess, because I was at the meeting when DDA voted unanimously to, I can't remember if it was unanimous, but they voted to elect a subcommittee to vet the process, and then suddenly there was an agenda to approve people. So I had a little bit of heartburn about that. So those are my comments.
2 of those were actually DDA recommendations, just not Debbie. Matt and Carl were actually DDA recommendations.
Any other comments? Not all in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Tab E, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
This evening, I have a request for budgeted mowing equipment and a little brief description here of what we need it for and why. As we have moved forward with the dedicated citywide grounds maintenance department, I've been looking at our equipment needs to be more productive and efficient while improving the quality of the landscaping services we provide for the city. Now I have under my direction the 4 staff members that were under the recreation department manager, 3 inmate guards, 16 inmates every day, and for all of our grounds maintenance and improvements. We also have, of course, the 3 staff members that work with the city fleet and building department. We're all focused on making a difference on how we effectively move forward and do a better job. The response has been very positive from all the staff involved. I've been real pleased with how they're willing to work together. In evaluating where we have been and where we need to make a difference in the grounds upkeep of Villa Rica, it's become apparent that we have not replaced much mowing equipment in any of our 3 crews' arsenal over the past 4 or 5 years. Repairs and downtime are consuming a lot of manpower and money. We need larger, more effective commercial equipment, and this list exactly is what that is. When I was told to head up this new department, we made our budgets to get these crews and staff members the equipment they need to get the job done right, and in doing so, getting some better quality work and improve the overall appearance of the city. This equipment will outfit our staff with what they need. It does represent about half of the equipment that all 3 crews have, half of it, I believe we can get another 3 years out of, so at this point, looking forward, I would like to work towards in the budget in 3 years that we continue to replace half of our equipment every 3 years, and that'll keep things where our maintenance isn't so extensive. I believe you'll see a vast improvement in the maintenance of all our city grounds as we move forward this new year with the staff changes and a closer management of resources and equipment. All the requested equipment on this document is through the state contract and is through Douglasville Ace Hardware, who we have a very good relationship with on service and parts. I know you've all seen the breakdowns, but in real quick, it's the requested equipment is 3 72-inch zero-turn mowers, 2 60-inch zero-turn mowers, 6 backpack gas-powered blowers, 6 new weed eaters, 6 edgers, which they will be doing a lot more trimming on the curbs and things all throughout the town.
I think it's 4 edgers, Bobby. Oh, Charlie, sorry. Is it 4 edgers?
4 edgers.
Okay. You
Yes,
said
sir.
6. Go ahead.
Okay. 5 chainsaws, 5 walk-behind mowers for use in the cemetery to avoid damaging the grave sites, so we don't let them use the zero-turn mowers in there. 3 pole saws, 4 hedge trimmers, and that's a total cost of $64,194.72 is on state contract. And we would recommend to approve this budgeted equipment so we can get to work.
Yep, it
early-
is
early
budgeted,
19.
and you're really good at presentations, and it's late. I make a motion to approve the purchase of this budgeted equipment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, just to add to what Charlie says, I want to tell y'all to watch these guys now when they get out is the model of better efficiency. I watched a tractor-trailer truck pull up with pine straw at the Gateway projects, and in less than a day, you know, it was completed. So kudos, Tom. You made a believer out of someone that had done it a different way for many years here, and you have proved me wrong. So keep
The
up the
equipment
good
is
work.
on.
Keep up the good work. I can admit when I'm wrong.
Thank you.
All in favor?
I was
Unanimous.
making that comment for the benefit of time.
Okay, item number 2. All right, the second item I have is, now that we've got that equipment, I need 2 more trailers to pull it with. We're requesting 2 20-foot trailers. 4 years ago, I bought a 20-foot trailer for the 1 inmate crew I was in charge of. Our other crews have a 14-foot trailer and a 16-foot trailer. The problem with that is with the equipment they need to go out and stay out all day, it takes a 20-foot trailer. So I have 2 crews that coming back and forth all day to the Avani building to get this piece of equipment, that piece of equipment. They can load up in the morning with a 20-foot, go out, stay there all day, and come in at the end of the day. Because when they leave, that's 6 men coming in from the work site every time they go. We lose a lot of hours that way. And we haven't bought any trailers in a number of years. I did get several bids. The 3 that were competitive and had the specs that we wanted one was from New Horizons Outdoors in Douglasville, and that one was $36,2990. The second one was putting around golf carts here in Villa Rica. That one was for $37.06 per trailer. That is $76.10 higher per trailer than the low bid. And the only other one I got that had the specified equipment was $43.90 from Kaufman Trailers. The reason I've asked for the one from our local vendor is I've looked at all of these trailers, and the quality of the build is, to me, a better trailer. It justifies the cost, and I just like to do business with a hometown vendor when we can. I think it's good
Yeah,
business.
this council decided some time back that if the bids are close together within $100, $200, that we would keep the business in the city
Right.
because the city really needs the business.
Well, I've compared the trailers. I mean, just the overall quality of the trailer. I think it'll last us longer. I think these trailers have a chance.
That's just a plus on top of
Yeah, I
anything else.
appreciate that.
I'm satisfied with your
Char-
opinion on that.
Charlie, was this a budgeted item?
It was a budget
Is it
item.
under
It's all
budget?
under our equipment capital.
Is it under budget?
Yes,
Or on budget?
By $6.
Yeah. Just something like that.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of this budgeted equipment.
Second.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Tab F. Chief?
Y'all have gotten a lot of stuff lately.
We've been busy.
Grants, nice awards and
That's
grants,
right.
right?
That's right.
That's good.
So this is for the rest of the body cameras to where we'll be able to equip all the officers with the body cameras. Part of it was through the grant, part of it was through drug money, and then part of it was through the money that Jim saved us to pay for that. And so we're asking that you allow us to buy the rest of these cameras.
Is this part of what Sarah presented earlier?
Yes, sir.
So we approved the money before we got around to approving the purchases.
Yes.
This
For
is
some
part of-
reason, I'm always last. I don't understand. I'm the
It's because we don't want you to slip
I'm
out of
the
here.
senior one here, and y'all make me be last.
All right, I make a motion that we allow the police department to purchase the remaining body cameras and equipment at the cost of $18,400.
Motion second. Just one comment I want to make. You know, we talked about this last year, and I believe then, still believe now, that body cameras are a benefit to our officers and to our public. How many, and I'm putting you on the spot because I haven't asked you this question, and I promise I'd never do that. But if you had to guess, how many other cities our size could say that they have a completely outfitted department?
Not very many our size, for sure. We've been very fortunate, and we appreciate your support, and this was one of your objectives, and we pushed forward to get it done as quickly as we could. Any money we could find to get it done, we have, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, what's coming out of your budget is $13,400 because you got a $5,000 grant, correct?
Yeah, that'd help. That'd help. Mhm.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
If not, all in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
I make a motion to go into executive session
For the purpose?
For the
for the purposes
purpose,
as David Mecklen will describe.
for the purposes of discussion, discussing personnel issues, including the hiring, firing, retention, compensation of a public employee.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? We are in executive session.
So, have you been at the dermatologist?